From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Monday, April 28th, and here are today's headlines. Vermont lawmakers are considering a new program that would finance infrastructure to support new housing in smaller towns. It's called the Community and Housing Infrastructure Program, or CHIP for short. It's essentially a small-scale version of Vermont's tax increment financing program, which lets municipalities borrow money for public infrastructure with the expectation it will spur new development. The increased tax revenue then pays off the debt. State Auditor Doug Hoffer wants to see an affordability requirement added to the CHIP proposal.
Who's going to live there? Who's going to benefit from this new housing? I would argue that affordability is too important.
Backers of CHIP say it should be used for all types of housing to help towns grow their grand lists. Lieutenant Governor John Rodgers is urging his Senate colleagues to make some major changes to a cannabis bill that passed the House last month. Rodgers is in a unique position because he's the only statewide official in the country who has a cannabis cultivator license. He told members of the Senate Economic Development Committee that the House bill does not address several key issues. Rodgers wants the public consumption of cannabis to be allowed anywhere tobacco use is legal.
We've legalized marijuana, cannabis, and there are people who have apartments have no place to smoke. You should be allowed to smoke cannabis anywhere you can consume tobacco products.
Rodgers is also a strong proponent of allowing growers to sell their products directly to consumers because he says small cultivators are having a very difficult time accessing shelf space at many retail stores. 4 in 10 U.S. adults say they've experienced a fraud loss. That's according to a new survey by AARP. Older Americans are especially vulnerable. That's why AARP has joined forces with law enforcement and industry leaders like Google and Walmart to launch a new nonprofit to fight back. Kathy Stokes is Director of Fraud Prevention Programs for AARP, and she says the National Elder Fraud Coordination Center will look for patterns and share information such as IP addresses.
And I believe it will begin to disrupt the fraud business model because right now you can enter into the fraud world without a care in the world because nobody's coming after you. We're here to say that ends today.
Stokes says people should avoid engaging in incoming communications of any kind without independently verifying their identity first. And this weekend marked the start of spring turkey hunting in Vermont with youth and novice hunters on Saturday and Sunday. To qualify, a person has to be 15 years old or younger and have completed a hunter education course, alongside having their hunting license, turkey hunting license, and free youth turkey hunting tag. Novices are hunters who have purchased their first hunting license in the past 12 months and are at least 16 years of age or older. Regular spring turkey hunting season runs through the month of May. Coming up, we hear from Vermont's reigning poetry slam champion. That conversation is after this. Every week at open mic night at the Whammy Bar in Calais, Geof Hewitt recites poetry, backed by a group of improvising musicians. Hewitt is the author of several books of poetry and a retired teacher. He's also Vermont's reigning poetry slam champion, a title that he's held since 2003. He spoke with Vermont Edition's Michaela Lafrac as part of that show's April series marking National Poetry Month.
Well, I have family in Vermont. And so when I got old enough to make a choice as to where I wanted to live, I came to Vermont to live because I liked the rural aspect.
What were some of the lessons that you learned from those early years in Vermont, maybe about having more of a connection to the land or like hard skills?
Well, I had to learn it all. And I never learned anything perfectly, for sure. I mean, I can tell you stories like I built an outhouse and I went to put a door on it and the damned hinges, I'd put them in backwards or upside down or whatever. So the door was completely unwilling to open, just a dodo using a chainsaw. It scares me to think of how cavalier I was.
When you moved to Vermont and then started getting this connection to working with your hands and, being closer to the land and nature, were you writing back then in your time? Was this making its way into your poetry?
The answer is yes. It's all a piece. I write from imagination, but my experience is there too. There's a lot of humor in learning, and mistakes are what make a story.
When did you start writing poetry?
When I was 17.
Hmm.
When at night I clamber up the stairs into my room, visions of the days gone by over me doth loom. I picture long gone memories of a love that was so true, but mostly long gone, darling, I envision you. And that goes on for 4 more stanzas.
That's one of yours?
That's one of mine. The teacher gave me a C minus. Who's to say?
But I do have a question from listening to your interview with my colleague Erica Heilman, who's the creator of the podcast Rumble Strip. When she interviewed you, you told her, I'm quoting here, "I'm not crazy about poetry. I like what I write, but I'm just as scared of it as anyone else." What did you mean by that fear? Are you still scared of poetry?
No, that's beside the point. No, I'm not scared of it. I don't read a lot of it. I'm close to illiterate, really. I mean, I have beautiful training, but I don't know, excuse me, I don't know much about literature in general. I'm angry with myself for my lack of knowledge.
You seem so knowledgeable about so many different things to me.
Well, I've given what leisure time I had to yakking on the page. That's it. I wasn't especially, I like my friends' work, people that I know and can immediately relate to the voice of the poem. And I've got, 8 or 10 very dear friends whose work I really admire.
Where and when do you like to write?
Yeah, I like to write in the morning, but also late at night. When things are quiet and I've had, either fresh thoughts in the morning or old thoughts in the afternoon. But anytime, if now I've, mostly retired. So anytime I can pick up a pen, I will.
And you're known for being Vermont's reigning slam poetry champ. How did you get this title?
Well, Michaela, I have to tell you that in 2003, I won Vermont's Poetry Slam Championship. I won by 1/10 of a point, and that was the final sanctioned Vermont Championship Slam. So there hasn't been one since, and I am the reigning champion.
You haven't had to defend your title since 2003?
Because there hasn't been an officially sanctioned title match, I have to claim that I'm reigning slam champion. Been there for 22 years.
The longest title holder.
Yeah, but I can tell you also that what slams I've entered since then, I probably haven't won a single one of them.
What role does poetry play in your life right now? Either writing it or reading it, or what feels unique about your relationship to poetry in this stage of your life?
I guess that I'm every once in a while surprising myself by doing something on the page that I haven't ever thought of doing before. Most of it is not good. Most of it's not good. I know that. But I wouldn't get the good stuff if I didn't allow myself, a 97% junk. It's a matter of weeding through the junk and finding what you can pull out and fashion into a poem.
That was Vermont Edition's Michaela Lafrac, speaking with Vermont's reigning Poetry Slam champion, Geof Hewitt. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. Today's episode was edited by Leah Melder Connors. We had additional reporting from Bob Kinzel. Carly Berlin, Nina Keck, and Jen Jarecki. Our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Talk to you tomorrow.
This is Tanya Mosley, co-host of Fresh Air. You'll see your favorite actors, directors, and comedians on late-night TV shows or YouTube. But what you get with Fresh Air is a deep dive. Spend some quality time with people like Billie Eilish, Questlove, Ariana Grande, Stephen Colbert, and so many more. We ask questions you won't hear asked anywhere else. Listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.